Good morning and half a day. The Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing is now called to order. For the record, today is Wednesday, June 9th, and the time now is 9:01. We're running 1 minute late. Notice for this budget hearing was disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. First public notice was issued on Friday, May 28th, and followed by Thursday, June 3rd, and Friday on June 4th. The committee will hear and accept testimony on Bill 55-36, COR, the fiscal year 2022 Appropriation Act as requested by the Governor, relative to the Department of Youth Affairs fiscal year 2022 budget request. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues that have joined me this morning. I have Vice Speaker Senator Tina Rose Munoz-Barnes. I have the Oversight Chair of the Department of Youth Affairs, Senator Amanda Shelton. I have Senator Tony Atta, I have Senator Joanne Brown, and Senator Tello Taitigui. We also have in our panel, we have the Director, Ms. Brennan, and her staff. You would introduce them when I give you the appropriate time, ma'am. The rules of this public hearing, those testifying on behalf of the Bill 55-36 COR relative to the Department of Youth Affairs are invited to the panel, and you have been invited already. Written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide my legislative staff with your written testimony for photocopying. Testimony may be read, and lengthy testimony should be summarized to about 5 minutes. But Ms. Brennan and the staff of DYA will allow you all the time you need. Preferably, we're just not talking around in circles, okay? Let's just get to the point, answer the question, and we'll move along. Those testifying will be allowed to present oral testimony. Once you're done, please remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance of the agenda, which is the budget of the Department of Youth Affairs. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in removal from the budget hearing room. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum may be restricted from providing oral testimony and will be asked to leave the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. I just ask my colleagues, try to minimize the time you use to ask questions. I'm not saying anything against any of my colleagues, but just minimize it so we can just move along. And for the panel, please state your name and your title for the record. When we begin, Ms. Brennan, you would introduce your staff, but when your staff is going to answer a question, introduce yourself one time, and that's all you need. Then after that, then we already know who you are. I'd ask now the Sergeant Arms to ask the panel to rise, Department of Youth Affairs, so that you be sworn in. Thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, you will affirm that any information that you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, or in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Mr. Chair, they're on their oath. You may proceed.
Thank you, Sergeant Arms. I'd ask now, Ms. Brennan, I know that you have slides, numerous number of slides, and that's not a problem. This is good, so that we all can see and hear what you have. We'd also like to recognize the minority leader that also joined us, Senator Chris Duenas. Ms. Brennan, if you could begin, please, by introducing yourself and your staff, and then you can begin your presentation. Hold on, and we'll make sure it's turned on. Make sure the mic's turned on, please. Try it one more time.
Hello?
There you go. Thank you.
So, Hafaday and good morning, Chairman St. Agustin and members of the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present the Department of Youth Affairs fiscal year 2022 budget requests. My name is Melanie Brennan, and I'm the Director of the Department of Youth Affairs. The DYA team includes, going from my right, is Ms. Jeanette Tovis. She is the Administrative Service Officer. And to her right is Crescinda Uggan. She is the Deputy Director of DYA. Ms. Corrine Bondicho, the Youth Development Administrator. And outside is the Superintendent of the Youth Correctional Facility, Mr. David Afeisen. We can start the slide presentation. Next slide, please. As described in Public Law 14-110, DYA's purpose is to improve the quality of life on Guam by the development and implementation of programs and services that promote positive youth development, decrease juvenile delinquency and status offenses, strengthen the family unit, protect the public, and ensures that offenders are held accountable for their actions and are provided with appropriate treatment, support, and opportunities to succeed in the community. Next slide. This slide depicts pie charts representing the FY22 budget ceiling compared with our anticipated budget needs, wherein personnel in both charts represent a little over 90%, with the remaining covering operations and utilities. So you see the variance, a shortfall of 1.422987. Next slide, please. So a summary of this variance is depicted on this slide, which includes 25% correction institution differential pay in accordance with the DYA policy that was just developed earlier this year and signed off by the governor, as well as what is known as the 4043 law enforcement retroactive pay, a prior year obligation that went unaddressed since the court ruling in 2010. I respectfully request authorization for these line items. Next slide, please. This slide is a 6-year full-time employee chart that tracks the highest level of personnel in 2019 at 87 full-time employees. Currently, there are 81 full-time employees, with the greatest deficit of manpower within the youth service worker tier, DYA's law enforcement officers. Next slide, please. Slide 6 shows outstanding recruitments, which include 1 maintenance specialist and a maintenance leader. Insufficient lists resulted in a request for additional qualified applicants. Also, 1 community program aide, which is a pending appeals period. 4 youth service worker assistant positions are pending a certified list of eligibles from DOA. The 4 youth service workers assistant positions were unfunded in 2022, as well as a payroll clerk 2 and an administrative officer, which is new, in order to meet the budget ceiling. Next slide, please. Federal funding assistance has been a godsend, especially with regard to the pandemic and other long-term sustainable infrastructure projects. From the CARES Act, we received $115,285, which we used for personnel protective equipment, masks, gloves, disinfectant and sanitization supplies, antibacterial soap, Zoom conferencing capabilities, including hardware for virtual hearings and virtual visitations, a water filtration system, additional power and water consumption, sanitization services for YCF and the resource centers, and we expended $100,567 to date. We also requested and received $220,500 from the Governor's Education Stabilization Funds to set up virtual learning centers in each of our dormitories and community resource centers, as well as the funding of a case management system. Thus far, we've expended $99,925. DYA is also the recipient of Department of Interior grants. A FY19 grant for a fire alarm system is still pending environmental reviews, as well as an RFK consultant team, $329,850. All of our DOI grants are still pending. FY19 CIP DYA building construction for a new DYA administration building supply and maintenance building, plus an emergency generator, yielded $1,920,000. This is still pending a change in the scope of work to remove the emergency generator, and thereafter a NEPA review for an authorization to proceed. Additionally, we received CIP monies for the DYA cottage home facility in Talafofo, but this is pending a change in the scope of work. This was $330,000. FY20, we did also receive another CIP, facility upgrades for a CCTV and to change the fence line and for magnetic door locks. This totaled $720,000. This is still pending environmental reviews. Next slide, please. Highlights. Sorry. Significant highlights include DYA's first Prison Rape Elimination Act audit, which resulted in a PREA audit report making recommendations on achieving compliance with over 40 federal standards for juvenile facilities. The intent of PREA is to make the youth correctional facility a sexually safer environment for all remanded youth. DYA was also delighted to bring back the oratorical contest and Island Leadership Day after a brief hiatus last year. We were able to bring back a scaled-down version with safety protocols in place. Additionally, a mini version of the oratorical contest was held in the youth correctional facility, and the residents also took part in a national systems impacted young writers essay contest coordinated by the superintendent of YCF. DYA employees also took part in numerous training opportunities and webinars for professional development. Those that stand out are FETI, or Forensic Experiential Trauma Interview, a science and practice-based interviewing methodology informed by the latest research on the neurobiology of trauma and memory, PREA 101, traumatic stress, substance abuse training, and an instructor course in de-escalation or verbal judo. Additionally, DYA continues to collaborate and partner with Manetlu, Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, District Court, Superior Court, the Guam Police Department, most recently Project U, CPS, and other youth-serving organizations to enhance overall service delivery. In terms of law enforcement recruitment or retention, great strides were made by the development and implementation of the Correctional Differential Pay Policy. DYA LEO staff absenteeism is now at an all-time low. Additionally, we just recently conducted drug testing and will commit to continue providing drug testing for all our LEOs. Next slide, please. Overcoming the challenges. Since youth residents in secure confinement are at a heightened risk for quick transmission if exposed to COVID, DYA implemented essential actions to protect their health and safety, as well as the direct care staff who provide supervision and care for them. In an effort to comply with the Governor's emergency declaration last year and the mandates of our mission, we utilized guidance from emergency management agencies, the CDC, National Corrections, information and local public health guidance to frame a comprehensive response to COVID-19. Our agency adjusted operations, suspended most in-person contact and programming to focus manpower on mission essential and critical activities. We implemented a point of entry screening protocol to ensure temperature and wellness checks. We intensified cleaning, hand washing, and sanitation protocols, and we identified a quarantine and isolation area. Due to the evolving nature of the pandemic, DYA's Response Activity Coordinator was activated and reports directly to Guam Homeland Security's Emergency Operations Center. He is tasked with keeping us abreast of all evolving federal and local advisories to keep DYA informed. DYA stepped up the use of technology for internal and external communication and posted guidance on our agency website. Community Resource Center staff also moved to a virtual platform to provide youth in the community with do-it-yourself projects, activities, skill building, and other positive youth development opportunities through social media. Prior to the outbreak, these staff also provided programming and activities to the youth in YCF. But despite our best intentions and a well-crafted response plan, due to a surge in the community, an outbreak occurred in the youth correctional facility in October and ran its course through mid-November of last year. FEMA guidance indicated that the potential impact of a pandemic entering an agency involved in congregate correctional settings would be a loss of up to 40% in manpower. So that is exactly what happened. And all of our youth in the youth correctional facility were infected. So what we did was we enlisted the assistance of the Department of Corrections when our manpower was reduced by 12 COVID-positive direct care staff. This helped to contain overtime costs and avoid further overwhelming our correctional officers. Partnerships with the Department of Public Health and Social Services, as well as Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness, assisted with the provision of much-needed daily nursing services. These partnerships allow DYA to properly care for the residents and operate safely through the outbreak, and we continue to remain vigilant. Next slide, please. Despite the challenges of the last 15 months, the Department of Youth Affairs remains hopeful. The vast infusion of federal funds has provided us with many opportunities. One such opportunity has allowed us to leverage our partnership with GDOE and realize the Summer Youth Employment and Internship Program. This is slated to begin in 2 weeks. Science tells us that 3 conditions are critically important to healthy psychological development in adolescents: the presence of a parent or parent figure who is involved with the adolescent and is concerned about his or her successful development; one caring adult. A sense of belonging is another, a sense of belonging in a peer group that values and models pro-social behavior and academic success. And thirdly, activities that contribute to good decision-making and critical thinking. School, extracurricular activities, and employment can provide opportunities for youth to learn, to think for themselves, develop self-reliance and self-efficacy, and improve reasoning skills. Maintaining and forging new partnerships with our youth and family serving organizations will enhance service delivery and provide linkages and access to all our clients. Exploring alternatives to detention with our juvenile justice stakeholders is another opportunity to do better by the youth who intersect with the court system. We ask that you invest in DYA so that we can better serve the youth and families that intersect with the deep end of juvenile justice. This concludes our budget presentation. My team and I stand ready to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Brennan. Simple question I have for you. You are aware of what the 36th Guam legislature had requested the governor to provide for you through the ARP, American Rescue Plan? Are you aware of that? Okay, that's $5 million. And the intention for that funds is for the construction of a new administration building. I'm almost surprised that on your last slide you showed a nice picture. Maybe you don't need a new building, but I know that's not your building, so I just thought I'd throw that out. Okay, Ms. Brennan. It's also for the establishment of the Interagency Juvenile Justice Data Sharing System to provide a multidisciplinary approach for youth in contact with law enforcement and youth entering the justice system. I'm going to safely assume that if you are fortunate and the governor was to give you what the Guam legislature is requesting to give you, $5 million, you'd fix your building and you fix everything else you need to fix with that funds. Would that be sufficient? And I know your ASO is eager to answer that question. Would that be sufficient, the $5 million, to take care of CIP projects and maybe the IT programs up at DYA? Just go ahead and say yes.
$5 million is way more than what I can even imagine. But the CI projects that we have, we've already been awarded. And with capital improvement projects, I know that it takes time. It's painfully slow, but we were awarded the money. And you can see that those particular things, in terms of the building, the mechanical locks, all of those things have been included in our ask.
Okay. Okay, then. I'm not going to say anything negative about what we're asking for you. I'm just hoping you guys will get it and you can do whatever else you need to get done. All right? Now, You mentioned you have prior year outstanding personnel services obligation. You know that within the budget of FY21, current budget, you're authorized to pay for prior year obligation. Do you have sufficient funds to pay that all off? Because you mentioned, I think it was 90-some thousand dollars, or even more?
Actually, it's 127.
Do you have, on your SOs right there, so do you have sufficient funds to pay that off today so that, I know you probably struggle by the end of the year, but at least your employees are all paid up?
Yes, and part of that is that the prior year obligation, the raw data was given to us from DOA, and we have one clerk working on it. She has gotten through 2008. She still has 2 more years to, and how we arrived at that particular figure was utilizing the 2008 figures. So it is still very tedious work. I'm not sure that we'll be done with it by then because she actually has her regular payroll duties.
Understood, but what I'm trying to get at is if you have an amount today, not what you're trying to figure out for the remaining of the years, do you have the ability to pay it? And if you do, I'll give you a very good example. When I was reinstated revenue and tax, it took them 3-4 months to pay me off. Okay, but they paid me a little bit and they kept on, showing the amounts and why they made the adjustments and they kept paying. But at least I was a satisfied employee, and that's my concern. If you have the ability to pay it today, because the Budget Act allows you to pay it. Don't wait until the end of the year to figure out that, we owe this much. No. You know what you owe today. You cut off there, and then you continue to pay until you reach a point where you're saying, we ran out of money. Then I can understand that. Then it'll be the responsibility of the Department of Administration to give you the funds, because all prior year obligation, when they identified there was $46 million surplus, and they're calling vendors, they should have been calling all the agencies and saying what other prior years you have, and let's settle this and move forward. That's what they have surplus for. It's not just for pick and choose your vendors. Employees are considered vendors. They provided a service, pay due. All right, so I just only ask that your ASO sits down and says what they got, and while you're doing the payroll, cut a check, request for a check to pay your employees. Let's get them up to date as much as possible. Okay, Ms. Brennan?
Yes.
Thank
sir.
you. Have you procured the majority of your budget supplies and equipment for the year so far? Have you already projected all that expenditure?
Yes, we have.
Okay. I'm just going to try to rush through my simple questions. There are 4 funded vacant positions in your staff panel. What is the status of those positions?
I'm sorry?
You have 4 funded positions, vacant positions. Are you going through the process of DOA to get them funded? Get them filled, or are they filled already?
So the social worker 2 position, it was departmental, and that's pending. The maintenance specialist and the maintenance leader, those were returned to DOA because of insufficient lists. The community program aid 1, I believe, is an unfunded for FY2022 due to the budget ceiling.
Where are you at today? We haven't reached yet October 1st. If it's funded today.
It's funded today, but it's pending the appeals process, so we are in the process of recruitment.
Now, when you mentioned in FY 2022, you identified it as unfunded? Remember, we didn't create the budget submission,
That's
okay?
part of our
It's from your
shortfall.
office. So if you need to adjust it, because I can't imagine you filling it next month and then saying on October, I'm sorry, but we're going to let you go because we didn't fund you for 2022. I just want to make sure that my colleagues are going to echo the same thing. Let's not fund it today and then not fund it tomorrow. It doesn't make sense. It's got to be continuous. If you're already going through that process,
So that
Ms.
was
Brennan, yes, go ahead.
those positions were identified in the 1.4 million shortfall that I believe was on slide 3.
If I look at your budget act that you submitted and it doesn't have it funded, then what do you want me to say to my colleagues? Let's not fund it because they didn't fund it. Update, Mrs. Brennan. Take a look. Look at this document. Update it. So my colleagues, when we sit down and we discuss the budget, we can say, they need it, they filled it, we need to continue funding it. Otherwise, we're going to say, I guess you only hired them temporarily. Okay, I just want to be misconstrued of anything, okay? I have a bunch of questions, and I know you have a copy of it, but I'm going to go ahead and move along so we can make this simple and less painful. Senator Amanda, as the oversight chair, will ask the next set of questions, followed by the vice speaker, and then we'll begin with Senator Fellow-Tigui after that. Senator Amanda?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Hafa day, everyone. Thank you, Director Brennan, Deputy Director Uggan, and to the whole team of women here in front of us leading the department, and also Mr. Agustin outside. Thank you very much. We're thankful for your presentation today. I really do appreciate the line items that you've requested for your prior year obligations. I think that's very beneficial for us here in the branch to be able to see exactly what we are still pending to be owed to, especially to our employees. So I do appreciate that. And I wanted to congratulate you on the many improvements you've made throughout the pandemic. You've been able to really use the time to adapt and overcome and make the facility a lot better for the youth at the department, and continue with the different activities for all the youth in our community, including the oratorical contest, the Island Leadership Day, the use of social media and the videos, which are very impressive. I know others have shared with me how much they like what the centers are doing with the different videos almost daily. So thank you all for that. I do have a question about the reclassification of the youth service workers. If there's any update from your conversations with the Department of Administration. I know that several senators and I introduced Bill 244-35 last term to help with the process of reclassifying, and we know that we were trying to do it administratively with the Department of Administration. I'm wondering if you have any update on that so that we can ensure that we fund these positions correctly.
So my last discussion with Shane Gata was that they still, all the whole tier, we submitted for the youth service worker, assistant, all the way up to the superintendent, we submitted new position descriptions, updated position descriptions, and we're waiting on DOA to complete their review.
Okay, so it's in DOA's hands now.
It is still in DOA's hands.
All right, thank you very much. I know that we have conversations very often about the budget, about the department, so I will give my time to the other senators who are here, and we'll continue our conversations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Amanda. Vice Speaker, Senator Tina Rose Mooney Barnes.
Mr. Chair, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I know you said to keep it brief. I did have 5 questions, but I will go ahead and limit it to 2, and then hopefully he'll give me round 2. But thank you so much to you, Director Brennan, and to your panel and your staff here today for all the work that you do for our youth here on the island. And, I want to share with you that something that has been literally, I think for me, was concerning when a designation was provided to you because of your expertise and your experience when you were also at the Superior Court. And it's just by the grace of God that the expertise that you have with your team, you were willing, you took on the task. And earlier this year, like I said, DYA was designated as the administrative custodian of the Child Protective Services Division of Public Health. And while CPS does have its own staff and resources, it is my understanding that DYA employees have been working to process the backlog cases. Do you know how long CPS will continue to be under the management of DYA? And are you coordinating with Public Health to ensure CPS receives the necessary resources so you don't have to pull from your DYA's budget and team? And I know that you've been literally stretched team, and your team has been giving it its 100% support, and I just want to say thank you for not giving up on our children who really need it the most. So if you can help me answer that.
So in terms of a date, again, because of CPS recruitment lags for social workers and needed administrative positions, we still remain at CPS. And that is myself, Karine Bendicho, our Youth Development Administrator, and Robinette Belahaja, the Social Services Supervisor 1, and 3 social workers now. We will continue to be there. We are trying to, as soon as a new warm body comes in for CPS, we're trying to switch off. And so we do anticipate 3 warm bodies coming in June. But it has been difficult to recruit social workers for CPS. It's not an easy job, and sometimes we go through the whole recruitment process, we make a selection, and they turn around and tell us, no thank you, I found something else, or I'm not quite sure I want to do that. So it has been a struggle. I would have liked to say by the end, by the end of August, but I think all of us that are there jokingly say that, we're going to be there for Christmas. But we're always going to have a relationship with CPS. We see a lot of dual status kids, and so it makes sense that we're there and we know these families, but I can't give you a definitive date. I will say that we will switch off as soon as new warm bodies come in.
So, Director Brennan, on the cases that was designated to you to review, at that time it was between 900 and 1,100 cases. Where are we at today on those?
So 700 of those cases have been acted upon, responded to. I think Karine might be able to give more details on the status of those cases.
Please.
Good morning, Senators. My name is Karine Bendicho, and I am the Youth Development Administrator, currently detailed to CPS since January as well. Insofar as the backlog of cases, we've actually vetted and re-vetted all of those backlog cases. To the current date, as of last week, Friday, I believe, the closure or terminated cases of those backlogs amount to about 755 cases. The remaining cases, some of them have been forwarded. They're active cases. So what we did was we had the social workers also pick up on those referrals backlogs and incorporate it to their current active cases. The remaining cases we have still need social workers to be assigned to them. And we are closely working with, DOA to try and recruit those workers. Unfortunately, there's just not enough workers at CPS to be able to address all of those. But all the really serious ones have been addressed, and we are still currently working on addressing the remaining.
Okay, and my second question is just as a tag on to that is, and you noted it early, Director Brennan, about the recruiting and retaining of social workers and the difficulty of that, and that this pandemic has really taken a toll on these critical employees. And I just want to make sure that you're taken care of also. So does DYA have similar issues regarding the social workers? And are there any plans to address the potential staffing issues for them if there's needing? I know you talked about maybe one here, but is there a need for more social workers at DYA?
So
If the designation was taken, gone back to public health.
So what we are trying to do is we're trying to leverage federal funding, we're trying to pursue federal funding to stand up programs. And in that, we will also ask for personnel such as social workers. What we have right now at DYA is sufficient at this time, especially once we return to our agency. The critical need really right now is with Child Protective Services. We're happy to help. It is really chaotic every day. There's always a crisis, and in addition to social workers, we need more foster homes to put children in. And so these are issues that, again, because we see many dual status kids kids involved in both child welfare and the juvenile justice system. It makes sense that we're there now, and that we should always, if we, like for example, when schools are out during the summer, CPS doesn't get a lot of referrals. Referrals come mainly when schools are face-to-face. And so this is, the time that DYA's population tends to go up, when kids don't have positive youth development opportunities. And so should we see a rise in our caseload at DYA, I would be the first one to, talk to the administration about going back even sooner.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I truly appreciate you giving me the time. I just want to note the Department of Youth Affairs that I'm very appreciative of your presentation as it relates to the federal assistance that is being provided to DYA. This is the first time I've seen that hundreds of thousands of dollars are being expended and utilized, and that you guys are literally taking advantage of it. So thank you, and kudos to your team for a job well done. And we'll see what we can do to support your efforts in making sure that you have the critical resources you need to support your team. Sign Mosling, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice. And Ms. Brennan, just to capture the resubmission, anticipate the GPA power increase, whatever increase that is going on now. And the reason why I'm saying that is because there's been, after you submitted your budget, there's been changes that's been happening. And I want to be able to anticipate whatever that increase is anticipated by your department, because all the other departments are going to be doing the same thing. I want to make sure you don't miss out on that. Any increases, anything that was passed by law, please make the changes. Give us the update so we can be able to understand.
We will, sir.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like to also recognize our colleague that has joined us, Senator Frank Blas. Now we will proceed with Senator Tello. You have any questions, ma'am, or comments for the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning. Good morning, ladies. Thank you for being here today. You come in full force. And I hear you're doing great things over at DYA. I greatly appreciate all your hard work, especially taking on CPS. That's a lot of work, and being there to testify on bills that actually affect them. So I appreciate your testimony, Director Brennan, especially for that one particular bill, and I concur with your findings too as well. Going back to CPS with regards to taking that extra load, your first name again? Karina, right? Karina, so with Karina's position, she's actually an employee of DYA, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and the funding that pays for her salary comes from DYA?
Yes.
Okay, so she's continuing to work under CPS though, right?
Correct.
Okay, and you're continuing to ask for her salaries under DYA? Okay. What was the job that you did, Karina, when you weren't working for CPS at DYA?
My title position at DYA is Youth Development Administrator.
Director Brennan, do you have somebody in that position right now, or are you being a woman and multitasking?
So, if I can answer.
Sure.
I think all of us are wearing multiple hats.
Yeah.
And it's because of the emergency declaration. It isn't a usual, ordinary circumstance. There was a need. What had happened to CPS, it was completely broken, and someone needed to step in, and we are doing that, but it has been difficult. And anybody who's doing CPS work, it does take a toll, and you can see it even in our social workers. Mm-hmm. But we're continuing to do it because we understand the recruitment process, takes a while, and as many people that we have selected and interviewed, half of them have decided they don't want it. I don't know if it's the media or just the nature of the work at CPS, but it is truly difficult. And so we're even thinking about recommending that somehow they get some type of incentive pay, mm-hmm. and that they stand up an employee assistance program. I mean, recommendations like that to help with the emotional toll it takes.
And you are addressing that currently right now?
Yes, we're working with Shane Gata, again, Director Burns, for some type of incentivized work as a social worker at CPS.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what your ideas are with regards to that, because we know we're finding the same issues over at DOC and the same perspective is probably happening at DYA. And you said you had 81 employees. Of the 81, how many are officers right now?
Currently, there are 46 law enforcement officers, Senator.
46. And how many do you really need over at DYA?
So with the 4 vacancies, we would be sufficient at 50 officers, and that's to contain overtime costs. And we've done a really, really good job because the staff ratios at night are even less. And so it's just in terms of anybody becoming ill or taking leave, but we have to bring in a buffer, and that's the only time really that we'll incur overtime. We've shared this shift work with DOC, our shift rotations, so that could probably help them out as well.
And how much funding would you need to be able to bring those 4 additional officers on board?
The funding is there. It's total person.
About 308, but that includes the AO, about 290 something. Oh, yeah.
You need to talk.
Sorry, I'm Jeanette Tovis.
Hi, Anton.
So it was also provided in the PowerPoint presentation. Just for the YSWAs and the AO, of course, it'll be about 280 something thousand,
Okay.
or 4 times 6, 240,000 about.
Okay, thank you. 240,000. The other question, did you receive any lapses in FY20?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and how much lapses did you have?
That's also in here. We had about 670 or 80,000
In lapses?
for FY20, yes.
Okay. And I'm sure it went to good use, because we did
Yes.
authorize the spending of that.
Yes.
Can you attribute that lapses to just the COVID scenario, and a lot of things were not, so it's going to be a different story in FY21, hopefully. And recruitment officers, you're doing what you can for, that's good to hear. It's not going to be, it's not 20 or 15 like that, that's good to know. And retention, I'm sure many of us want to hear what you're going to do to try and find that retention, how you're going to entice, other officers coming and keeping the ones that you have on board, because that's do you have any retiring this year?
Not with our law enforcement officers. Like I said, since the correctional differential pay policy was developed and implemented, we've really had better attendance by the officers, and they seem to want to come to work. So it did incentivize them. They still look forward to a reclassification, because that correctional differential pay is only for when they are working within the institution, within the facility.
And last question, with regards to, you talked about CIP projects that are moving forward. I found that one agency had a hard time to get even contractors to come and, answer to the bids that are going out there. It's hard to find contractors. They're all on base. Are you having any issues with that?
None of our projects have reached that point yet. They're all still pending NEPA reviews and authorizations to proceed. It has been quite lengthy, though, just those processes in and of itself.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, ladies. Be safe.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Senator Tello. Senator Guåhan, I will proceed with you because the remaining colleagues are former directors of DYA and deputy directors, and I want to try to save them for the end. All right, Senator Brown, do you have any questions?
Yes, on that basis, I can go ahead of them, but I've never been the director of DYA, so I'll defer to them with their expertise. I did want to ask in your presentation, certainly appreciate the time and effort you and your staff put together to provide the presentation for DYA. But I did want to ask with regards to your youth clients that are coming through DYA, what are the annual numbers that you have for these young people that are coming, and also what's the average duration of their stay with the department, and what happens during the time period that they actually are under your care?
So in 2015, the average daily population went anywhere from 80 clients to 100. But because of juvenile justice reform efforts that were spearheaded by the judiciary and the judges there, they recognized that incarceration should be the last result because adolescents are more amenable to change, and so they started using diversion programs. And so currently, or prior to the pandemic, our average daily population was anywhere from 30 to 25 kids. In 2020, that decreased. So the numbers of kids that go through the system still remain at about 300 kids come in, new admissions. The length of stay is shorter, which is good, because the turnaround time for kids, especially their pre-trial, meaning they're innocent until proven guilty, they shouldn't languish. The only issues we have are with a minority population that is overrepresented, and the homes that they're coming from, or they are homeless, do not have homes, and so they end up staying. And so currently our population ranges from 20 to 15 children on the daily now.
Do you also, I assume it's not just the time that they're physically staying there, does DYA also do outreach to them if they're returned back to their home population? And I understand in some circumstance the homes they come with may not be the most ideal situation that may have helped create the problem that young person may have, and I'm sure it's difficult, where do you return them? Do you return them back to the circumstance that may have helped create the problem that they have? So what other outreach work does DYA do in addition to, because people just think of DYA and they think these young people are just sent up there as if it's the, youth prison, so to speak, right?
So
so I just want to get a better idea, and I'm sure the public does, about what else is involved with young people that are under your care for the time they're assigned to your department.
So every youth that is admitted into the correctional facility is assigned a social worker upon entry. Also, a therapist comes in to do assessments, an initial assessment, and we also have a nurse, a contracted nurse, that will do a physical assessment of these kids. Prior to any release, there is contact with parents, and there is, I wouldn't say there is a home study, but something that we are currently working on is a solicitation for a reentry program that bridges that gap, that kids are not just released and going, back to where they came from, but going back or to a better place or to a place with support. Some of the kids that we see, even though they're 16, 17, they don't have even a driver's license. They lack documentation. So even if they're returning 18, we couldn't assist them with getting housing on their own. And so part of reentry is doing that. Currently, what our social workers do is there's an aftercare program. And so it's kind of like a parole program where they still have to attend court hearings and they're still followed in the community. But reentry is something that tracks them even after court is done to ensure that they have the supports needed to become successful in the community, even if it means not going back to the home they came from.
And what are the age groups? What is the number that determines what's the oldest age that you define as a youth? I mean, people think 18, some think it's 21, but for DYA, what is that age? And I'm just asking. I think the budget has been clearly laid out. I don't need to ask you questions with regards to that, but just to give us and the public a general idea, what is the oldest age group and the youngest you've had to deal with at your department?
So in 2019, I believe I had 2 10-year-olds. We were working with 2 10-year-olds, and the oldest was 18 at the time. In some circumstances, when a 17-year-old is charged as an adult, meaning charged with a felony offense or a misdemeanor, certified as an adult, if they still are a minor, then they come to the Department of Youth Affairs. Once they reach the age of majority, if they have an adult charge, they move to the Department of Corrections.
And then can I just ask in general, I'm sure there's a whole variety of reasons as to why these young people end up in your care, but what is the most prevalent reason today that you're seeing that these young people are coming through DYA?
I think there are multiple reasons, but many of them lack the support they need in their own homes. And a lot of times we have kids that are couch surfing and they get arrested for burglary or robbery, but most of the kids that are at DYA are there for nonviolent crimes. Only a very few actually, and this is my opinion, only a very few violent offenders that cannot be managed in the community belong in a youth correctional facility. If we had alternative placement, residential type settings, like Sanctuary, then we would be better off as a community.
No, I appreciate your insight. I think it's, you know, it's unfortunate. I mean, we got a lot of good things that are happening on Guam, but the things that are less seen, that are affecting our youth, our elderly out there, that, you know, I think we all collectively are concerned that the family unit, when we were growing up, we had that support, and I think a lot of our young people now don't have it, unfortunately, and there's a lot in their community are not even aware of what issues are affecting them. And for them to be challenged at such a young age to have to deal with that, it's really disappointing. There's probably a lot more we can do as a community to help take care and raise our children collectively. So I appreciate your presentation this morning. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Brown. I know I identified that the other colleagues have former director, deputy director, and former police officer that I know was, like me, used to pick up a lot of youth. We'll go ahead, we'll start with the former deputy director, Senator Tony Atta. Do you have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to the team at DYA. As you know, I went and visited the department a couple of months ago, and we did have several hours of conversations about the things that you guys do there, the budget and all that. And I think that overall, I was very pleased with the presentation that you guys did then, and I'm pleased with the presentation you did this morning for your budget. I agree with the chairman that you should update your budget request so that you can ensure to fund that position that he was talking about into the next, into the new FY budget. Other than that, Mr. Chairman, I don't really have questions. I just like to know where we at with the resource centers now. Are we fully open with the resource centers to have kids go there for after-school programs again when school started? Or?
No, no, Senator. The resource centers are open for aftercare for the children and the youth that are on aftercare. The social workers and the community program aides are there. The community program aides are still doing virtual do-it-yourself messages and tutoring and all on our social media platforms. We were considering opening it, but we were also involved in Project U. And as you know, that GPD summer project had to close because of a COVID infection, right? And so many of the kids that take advantage of our summer camps are in that age group that cannot yet be vaccinated. So that is a concern of ours, and so we still are basically operating virtually through our community resource centers.
Oh, okay. Ms. Jeanette, you know, the chairman spoke about the prior year obligations and for the officers and things like that. Do you have any prior year obligations for vendor payments?
Not to my knowledge at this time.
So everything is pretty much up to date, just the prior year for the pay and things like that, right? Okay, yes. That's great to know. Cottage homes, I believe it was, you guys were saying that there's a renovation project for $330,000. It was mentioned, I think, a couple of months ago about transferring cottage homes in Talafofo to, was it behavioral health or behavioral health, right?
That's correct. The FY19 grant was something that the previous administration had, I guess, they had gotten the award for that. Initially, they went for that solicitation, and what had happened was they were renting a house right outside of DYA, right outside the gates of DYA. But that home had some issues, as well as it was too small, that they were bringing the kids back into DYA every time it rained, or every time they had in excess of like 10 kids. And so that wasn't working out. And so the $330,000, we had initially said, okay, let's use that to renovate cottage homes in Talafofo. With our staffing levels and with the reduction in our population, we thought that, okay, what we can do is we can use that to renovate or to purchase or to look for something else. But the Talafofo homes really wasn't conducive to our current workforce and the clientele, the numbers. And so there is an exchange basically so that they can address substance abuse with that building. That's the current administration's take on this, basically.
So do you plan to reprogram those funds for cottage homes to renovate, or do something up at the
Yes.
facilities? And so then the $330,000 for a cottage home renovation in Talafofo,
So
we're going to nix that.
We had to get approval to use a vacant dormitory in the youth correctional facility that sits outside of the perimeter fence for cottage homes. We had to get approval from the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention because of commingling clients, basically. And so there was, our grants manager came out, visited with us, and okayed it, and it was dependent on certain requirements. We had to remove jail cell doors. We had to, do a bunch of different things. We had to mask off the youth correctional facility from the windows so that the kids could not, be seen, and separate their walkways. And so we did all of that. And so we still are contemplating on what best use that we could put the $330,000 to. The perimeter fence, I believe that grant only gives us $720,000. It would take at least $1 million to do the full fence line of DYA. So we're thinking what would be the best way to use that monies.
Okay, so then the bottom line is the 330 is not going to Talafofo Cottage?
No,
Home?
it's not going
Okay.
to Talafofo.
Yeah, so that's what I just wanted to get to. The ARP funding that you requested from the governor's office, should you, realize the full amount, do you plan to use any of that to hire personnel?
So in our discussions with the administration, even with just the interim guidance, there's no definitive final guidance on those funds, and it wasn't part of our budget discussions when we were working with the governor. We were just concerned about our shortfalls, and she was committed to helping us. In terms of ARP funding, I think that the administration will be prudent in their decisions. Like, they're going to look for sustainability, like a hospital that serves the entire community, and not personnel that are just going to be there for 1-2 years. So, no, it might pie in the sky, were suggestions, but I doubt that, I can get that.
Okay, yeah, I just don't want to see that we're hiring personnel and then later on we're going to try and transfer them onto the FY23 budget or what, and there's no funding
Right.
available for them. Okay, that's good to hear. The funds that you used for the CARES Act funds to purchase the hand sanitizers and PPEs and things like that, were you able to purchase any air filtration systems for the facilities and office spaces there?
Yes, we were, and those funds are encumbered, but oddly enough, that's the only thing that's outstanding. We did put HEPA filters in all of the existing air conditions, but an air filtration system is still pending. Jeanette? Pending installation. But
So-
the monies were encumbered, and
Did you also make provisions for replacements of those HEPA filters? Did you put
So-
funding aside for that as well? Because I think HEPA filters, you got to replace them every 3 months or every so often versus, for example, our filtration system there. All you do is wash out the filters, and you're able to utilize it again. So, I think that when we're looking at systems that need, or the filtration systems that are needed, look what we can have for long term, and not we're using it for a short period, and then we never change the HEPA filters and the air conditioners, and it does us no good by replacing them, buying them and not replacing them.
yes, sir, we did. Initially, we knew that it would take a while to get a whole air filtration system, and so what we did was we ordered a stockpile for our air conditioning system, our current air conditioning system. So we have HEPA filters for air conditioning, and we're pending the installation of an air filtration system with an inventory of HEPA filters.
Okay. Thank you guys for all that you do. That's the only questions I did have. And Mr. Chairman, I look forward to working with you and the committee and the department to see what updates they make to their budget request. And hopefully we'll be able to accommodate it and make sure that you guys get everything that you need so that our youth offenders do not become adult criminals. And that's the most important thing, is keeping our youth on the right track. And you know, we've been there, we've done that, and we need to continue to be there to do that. So thank you guys for everything that you do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Ana. Senator, our minority leader, former director of DYA, Senator Chris Dueñas, do you have any question for the panel?
Sidus Masi, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Director Brennan, Mr. Net Tovis, Deputy Agustin, and Ms. Benditro. I'm so glad that you are the Youth Development Administrator. How long have you been in that position?
It'll be 29 years this October, Senator.
But as the administrator, you took over for Ms. Taitano, right?
Yes, I did. I was administrator 2019.
Awesome.
Yes.
I'm glad you're there.
Thank you, Senator.
You're the right person for the job. I would say Team DYA, but the time that I spent there, I would more like to say good morning and welcome family DYA. Because it truly is a family up there. And Ms. Brennan, I'm jealous. I actually almost want to trade. Now, really, the advancements, and, you know, I feel old because I was looking at the picture of probably the last resolution presentation. I think I only know 5 of in that picture, so that's how long ago it was. But I really just want to thank the team and everyone for the constant work and improvement over the years that I've seen in the Department of Youth Affairs. And Ms. Brennan, I really was so happy to hear your constant push and your discussion on the issue of really minimizing youth confinement. That was something that we battled with very hard when I was there. You know, we had times when the correctional facility was up in the numbers of 80 and 90. I mean, it was really, really difficult. So I guess along those lines, I just wanted to get some updates. First and foremost, I joined the chairman and the rest here, and I just want to get this on the record. The variants that you've shown, Jeanette, on this, the BBMR is aware that this variant exists, right? So if we adopt this level, it would, you know, they understand where DYA is going?
Senator Chris, they're only aware of 1.3.
Okay.
So in our meetings, in our discussions with Senator San Agustin, it came up that we did not include the 25% correctional institution pay because we were governed by the ceiling, and so we did not include that. He asked us to incorporate that as well as the prior year obligation, which we did, and so the amount comes to 1.4, and we will be sure to make those changes with BVMR.
Okay, yeah, because we just, you know, we want to do our best to not be at odds, and, you know, we want to make sure that that's supported so that there's no line item or any issues such as that going forward. But I think that it's definitely appropriate in the request, given the challenges that other agencies are experiencing that have come before us on the manning requirements and the like. And I wanted to once again also congratulate you. I was not surprised when the state of emergency was issued and you folks stepped in with counseling case management at DYA. It's just superior, and I was not surprised at the success that you're having. So congratulations with that once again. With regard to, I just wanted to get some updates. So the MOU with Department of Education for Lihing Famagún, that is still active?
That is still an active program.
Okay, yeah, that is, to me, that's the signature program of Department of Youth Affairs, because as you mentioned in your presentation, Director Brennan, that in my time at least, the greatest recidivism reducer was when those kids got back on track with their education. And Lihing Famagún, the school at Department of Youth Affairs, is an amazing opportunity for our kids. And I know the teachers there are all just so dedicated to helping our young people. So I guess my only final question, I guess, you were mentioning on the CIPs and the request, our request under ARP is not in your CRPs, because what we were looking at is the ability for you to finally build that administrative building. I know the last plan that I saw when I was there, it was right in the range of about 3.8 million. So the 5 million that we've requested for you, I think would be well within the range to do that. So I know, I know Director Brennan, earlier you said that, you know, of course, you're going to defer, but I think that to the administration's request, but I think that's something that you really need to get done, just because it really complements everything else that YCF and all of the other facilities, you know, have to do. I like your sight and sound separation on premises for, you know, status offenders, non-status offenders. So that sounds like you're definitely going in the right direction. So we want to support you. You know, please help us help you, that when we get to the final, you know, end of the line here and adopt the final number, that will be in concert with BBMR on that.
Thank you.
Okay, other than that, Team DYA, continue the great work and appreciate everything that you're doing. Situs Masi, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Duenas. Senator Blas, do you have any comments or questions for the panel?
I got a couple questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much, and good morning, ladies. It's really refreshing to see, you know, this panel, you know, and so nice masks too. First question is actually a two-part question, and it's probably going to talk more to the, you know, intellectual or even the practical part as opposed to the numbers. Okay, so you know, my question is, what is the most significant thing that you'd like to do, or versus what is it that you are going to be able to do? What's the most significant thing that you'd like to do at DYA versus in practicality, what you're going to be able to do? What do you envision for DYA, Lonnie?
So, you know, and I've said this, and I think throughout the presentation, I have said that some kids need support, they just don't have it. Some kids need opportunities for success. They just don't get it where they're at. And they end up, for whatever reason, whatever adverse childhood experience they've had, whatever traumas in their life, we see them at DYA. What I would like to do, it's not practical yet because I don't have funding, but I am going after a solicitation for reentry. Reentry means that once they get out of DYA, we follow them and we give them the supports that they lacked. And if it means that they don't go home, but they get their own home at age 17 or 18, or they're with a kinship placement, then that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to be able to give these youth a chance that never had a chance. The youth that we see at DYA had so many challenges, and that's why they're there. But we think that something magically happens when they're at DYA, and it doesn't. It's what happens in the community and us following them through a reentry program to help them reintegrate successfully is what I envision, what I would love to do. But practically, what we can do right now, I think I'm going to let Crescinda handle that, because that's like a really huge effort, and that's going to happen in 2 weeks. It's our summer youth employment and internship program.
Half a day, Crescinda Uggan, Deputy Director of the Department of Youth Affairs. Well, thank you, Mrs. Brennan, for the opportunity. So, the 2021 GDOE Youth Employment Internship Program pretty much aims to provide the island's youth 14 to 21 years of age, and this is basically 9th through 12th grade, or recent 2021 graduates, with opportunities for positive life skills development, career and technical experience, career-oriented opportunities, and exposure to financial literacy. Now, what is all this? It's civic engagement. It's getting out into the agencies, into the workforce, and getting that experience. This is going to happen, you're right, in the next couple of weeks. I'm working diligently with the people at the Guam Department of Education to raise up this summer youth employment program, and that is scheduled to start tentatively on June 21st, with applications being able to be received or via electronic copy or picked up at the Cotton Resource Centers starting June 11th, which is this Friday. So I know that the date and time is really close. However, we're very, very excited. Now, this is intended for about 400 participants, $400 weekly. So these age groups, you know, going through what they have with the pandemic and in consideration of the challenges that they have had, are now given this opportunity to, you know, to contribute to their families, to contribute to their lifestyles, and at the same token, gain the opportunities and the experiences of the workforce. So that's what I have for now, and I know that I have been speaking with Senator Amanda Shelton, and I'm sure that you're going to get the additional information needed to participate as well. So I do invite you to become host agencies to these young individuals, and hopefully that impacts the recidivism rate, that impacts you know, those coming back into the confines of the youth correctional facility. So this is a big project, and I'm glad to speak on behalf of it. And if you have any questions further in regards to the project itself, don't hesitate. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. Second question. What's your greatest challenge right now? I'm making you think, huh?
The greatest challenge is really trying to wear two hats, and it has been a challenge, but I'm not completely exhausted. I still have energy, and that has been a challenge, and it's been a challenge for our whole crew. I'm sure it's been a challenge for Crescinda as she handles the helm at DYA. There's a lot of challenges: recruitment, budget, a lot of things, but nothing is insurmountable when you have the right team, and I have an excellent team.
Great. Okay, so last question. What are you going to be able to tell us next time, about this time next year, as to what you've been able to do?
So you saw my highlight presentation.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see like maybe four of those slides, and I won't keep to the 10-slide requirement.
Okay. So I can hold you to that.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Blas. Ms. Brennan, let me just extend my apologies. If it appeared, because the oversight chair said don't scold them about what they need to give. Trust me, I don't scold folks. None of you are my kids. If you were my kids, trust me, we would have a different tone. But on that note, all I wanted to do was insist you give us the update. Insist you put it in record, the 25% and everything else. Because you've heard from all my colleagues, we're going to find a way to help you. But we can't help you if you don't help us, you know, put it in its proper order. That's all we're asking. And we ask that from every agency. And some of them just still don't get the hint. And then it's not my fault when we end up discussing it. But other than that, you did a great job. Thank you. And I know our meeting was successful. And you could have gone over 10 additional slides if you needed. All you had to do was insist, and we're open to that. We just say 10, but that's good. Because I know you would have been like, Otek, you would have came up with 50, but that's okay. But that being said, Ms. Brennan, this concludes the budget hearing for the Department of Youth Affairs. The committee will continue to receive testimony, and please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. Agustin at gmail.com, or to my office located at Rand Care Building, 2nd floor, Suite 3, 761 South Marine Corps Drive, Tamuning, Guam. Sizus Masi for your attendance and participation in today's hearing. And for those at home, thank you for watching. The budget hearing on Bill 55-36 CR relative to the Department of Youth Affairs is now adjourned. It is now 10:15. And please be safe. Take care of our youth that are in your custody. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.